what's going on, everybody? It's NaVell J, and I'm coming to you with a special bonus edition of The Buzz here at Buzzworthy Radio. As we are now winding down, celebrating Independence Day weekend, I had the pleasure of also participating in the very first ever Independent Podcasters Day, which took place yesterday. And shout out to everybody at Mercury for acknowledging this day, creating this day, as well as the CEO, Liam Heffernan. And for somebody who's been in this space for 20 years. My show will be turning 20 next November, but I started podcasting in 2006. So much has changed in this medium. And when I first began, I was doing nothing but recording from my computer speakers. I had no tools. I really had no idea what I was doing. If anything, I was shooting straight from the ass. So I didn't think that I would even have said I would have lasted for 20 years, let alone for 20 minutes. But I really owe so much to the podcasting world. And the reason why I say that is because it helped me find my voice. For someone who lived a very, very sheltered life, I was in a bubble that you couldn't even imagine. There was nothing that anybody could do in order to break it. Like nothing. That shell was unpenetrable. This podcast opened up so many things for me, and I realized how much I was missing out on. I was very happy to have found something that I was able to share with the world, but I wasn't comfortable sharing it with the world. I was still embarrassed, to talk about a podcast, mainly back then because not many people still understood it, but I also thought that people would look down on it. And it also didn't help matters that the subject matter that I had on the show, I also don't think people really understood it as well. So that's why I really didn't talk about it. And then I realized that me not talking about it was also hurting my show. If it wasn't just hurting the show, it was also hurting me because I was not allowing people who I felt that I became close to a part of this life. They weren't able to share what I was doing. And so I was keeping them an arm's length on that. But I loved and still love what I'm doing with the show. And I'm saying loved in the past tense because of how and where it started. Showcase people on my show in a medium that didn't really get the love that they deserved. And they still aren't getting that recognition that they deserve. These actors in the daytime community really are some of the best of business. They show up to work every day, new scripts in hand. Some of them are reading 80 pages a day, if not more, and they're having to learn these scripts each and every day. And having the industry look down on them, it was very sickening for me. I hated the fact that we looked, and I'm saying we as a collective, look down on this medium. And I really wanted to celebrate this medium. So I was very happy to start the show to honor those guys. And I was very happy to learn more about what they do, how they do it, and then just getting to talk to them as just regular human beings. I took time off from the show in 2019 because there was so much going on in my regular job at the time. I was doing more. I was doing more work, and I was putting my job ahead of podcasts. And in some aspects that makes sense because it was paying the bills. It still is paying the bills, but the job at that point really did take a toll on me. I noticed that I wasn't getting out as much. I noticed that I was getting depressed. I noticed that I was suffering with anxiety. I noticed that there were things about when I decided to make that a focal point, it hindered me as a human. And having the podcast not be a focal point in my life, I didn't realize how much I missed it until a few years later when I had a breakdown, when I had a mental breakdown. And then when I got laid off from this job, not the same job, this is a different job that I was at where I got laid off and had the breakdown from. It really showed me how much I gave up and how much I missed what I gave up. I went back into this fold with a different perspective. One, the first part of this was that I was coming back into this where people were not reaching out to me anymore. When I reached back out to them when I came back, those relationships that I had built all those years ago faltered. They weren't coming back. And if they did, it was few and far in between. They pretty much said they were pretty much done with me, in my opinion, because they weren't giving me anything as much as they used to. And that hurt. That hurt that I wasn't able to, I guess, re-strengthen that bond. But it also really didn't stop me from wanting to get back and doing what I loved. And I think that was the biggest thing about all of that. is that I wasn't going to let that stop me. So when 2023 came around and I started doing a bit more with the podcast, I was finding some things that I was able to do, have some guests on. It was still a slow process, but again, you're cutting back into it after a almost 4 year absence. So when I applied to Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con, by the way, the first time since a couple of years, and I really did not think I was going to get anything from it. I will say that getting approved for Comic Con was probably the defining moment of when things changed for what I was doing here at the show. 10 years to the day, literally 10 years to the day, I got approved to cover San Diego Comic Con. I started in 2013, got rejected every year, so I gave up. And then I tried to buy a fan badge. You don't know how that rolls around. But when I reapplied for it in 2023, and I got approved for the very first time, it was a slow trajectory, but it was there where things started to change. And I started looking at things where I'm going, I can't expect the opportunities to come. I need to work for the opportunities. Because again, as an independent creator, and not just an independent creator, but a solo independent creator, who's doing everything on his own, everything, hosting, EPing, pitching, post production, all of it. I'm doing everything. It's just me. You got to work twice, if not three times as hard for people who have a staff, people who have a backing, people who have sponsorships. And this is the one thing that I always say about independent creators. We do multiple times the work, but not get the recognition that I feel that we truly deserve. And that's why I love people like Mercury. I love people like Frank Recipiapi. I said your name wrong and I completely apologize. Raciapi. And I still probably pronounced it wrong. But Frank, you know I love you at Earworthy. You shine a light on independent creators. It's wonderful to see that you're giving us our due. And at Mercury, you're also doing that. You're building a network and you're giving independent creators their voices, their time to shine. And it's amazing. It is amazing what all of you are accomplishing for this. I recently, when I put in the hashtag for Indie Pod Day, I came across a poster, and I can't remember the podcast name, but her name is Gretchen, and she had posted about how she got the rejection email from the Signal Awards. I looked at that and I remember how I got that same thing in 2024 when I first submitted to the Signal Awards. I looked at it and I will say that while it wasn't disappointing, it also made me go, what can I do to make my show better? What can I do to make it stand out? What can I do that when I submit for this again, these judges are going to look at it and go, this is award-winning work. You know what I mean? So, and that's what I did. You know, you have to learn to better your craft, no matter how long in the game you've been. Always look for ways to evolve and improve. And that's what I'm still learning. I'm still learning some facets about making my show change for the better. And I'm very excited that I've been a part of certain organizations like the Podcast Academy I just joined. And I'm now involved in the Television Critics Association, and seeing a lot of these people in this industry talk about what they do for their podcasts and what they can do for others. I love the collaboration of this. And this is something that you don't see if you're not an independent creator. You have this will of everybody wanting to see you succeed. They want to see you succeed. We want to see all of you indies succeed. That's what I love about this medium. I love this medium so much, is because we love each other so much. And this is the thing I want to just basically point out to everybody, that if you are an independent creator, I think a lot of us want to look at the numbers. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but I think that's our primary focus at one point, is to look at how many downloads we're getting, how many followers we have. That's fine to do that. And I'm not saying don't do that. But if that is your primary focus, that's a problem. And that's where you're going to fail. You need to figure out what your show is about. What is your show going to do for your listeners? Me, as an independent interview-based show, that makes my job even more difficult, because I have to also figure out how the audience comes back and keep them for me. Because when you are an interview-based show, most of your listener base comes from the guests that you have on. They're coming here for them. They're not coming here for you. They're coming here for them. So now you got to figure out how are they going to come here for you, meaning how are you going to figure out that they're going to come for you as the host? Because they also got to come back to you. And that's what makes it so difficult when you have an independent interview based show. When you have interview based shows that we have now with Armchair Expert, Good Hang, the Kiki Palmer show, I was trying to think of it off the top of my head. But when you have those types of shows where they already have celebrity backing, and by that, I mean the audience, they're already going to come back to that show. Independents coming into this, we got to figure out how they're going to stay. So it's tricky, but I think a lot of it has to deal with consistency and also not just relying on the show itself to get you out. You also need to put yourself out there in the social game. You also got to put yourself out there in front of people. And ever since I started doing that, it's really been eye opening. It's changed the way that I approach a lot of things now. And a lot of it does have to deal with money because not a lot of independent creators can make those trips to put themselves out there at events. For me, it's also difficult, don't get me wrong, but then when there are times where I can make it happen, you make it happen. Luckily, a lot of the events I've attended were in New York. So I've been able to take the train from where I am to go into the city to do these things. So it's been fruitful for that. But when you're going to travel across the country, yeah, that could be a little bit different. But we're still learning, we're still evolving along the way. And all I'm going to say to you indies that are listening to this, keep pushing your product out there. You got a voice that we love and respect. You got things that you're able to say freely without having to worry about anybody coming in and saying that you can't not say this. You can say, you can do whatever you want because it's your show, it's your brand, and it's all yours. No one can come in and say you can't do this except for you. And that's one of the things I love about it because it's freeing for us. We get to do this on our own terms. So it's wonderful. It's wonderful to see Mercury and their sponsorships that came out in support of Independent Podcasters Day. And I just wanted to hop on here real quick and say, keep doing you guys. Just keep doing you. You never know that it's going to be that one show that it's going to gain traction for you. And then it's just up from there. So continue to do great work. We're going to be back here for some more episodes soon, so stay tuned for that. But shout out to all the podcasters. You guys rock. Love being a part of this community.